Well, good evening or good afternoon. Welcome to my 14th episode of Reverent Cooking. Tonight, at the request of Leela Doherty, we are doing a Primavera sauce, a homemade pasta sauce. Specifically, what I'm doing is we're making shrimp Primavera. A Primavera sauce is kind of like a marinara sauce, but it's got a lot more vegetables in it. It's a little chunkier, and also it has a little bit of kick to it. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn on my water here in the back for my pasta. I'm going to put a little bit of salt in there, just to kind of give that pasta a little bit more flavor. And I'm going to put some olive oil on top, just kind of so that whenever we put the pasta in, it doesn't stick together as much. Stick a lid on there. Next thing we're going to do is put some olive oil here in the bottom of my big pan. This is where my sauce is going to go. My Primavera sauce, I like a lot of vegetables in it. So we've got about a half a pound of carrots that I've diced. This is 2 small bell peppers diced. 1 zucchini diced. I've got half of a big red onion. You could use white onion or yellow onion if you prefer. I've got here half a pound of mushrooms sliced. Then for the tomatoes, tomatoes just are not in season yet, and so I am using canned tomatoes for this. I've got 1 can of basil, garlic, oregano tomatoes, 1 can of stewed tomatoes, 1 can of just regular diced tomatoes, 2 small cans of tomato sauce. I would love to be using all fresh herbs. We are using oregano from our garden. We're using some flat Italian parsley from our garden. And we are using basil from our garden. But our thyme is not ready yet, so I had to pull out the dried thyme. And then, like I said, salt, pepper, and then it's going to have some crushed red pepper in it. So we're going to get this started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to want to cook our hard vegetables, so our onions and our carrots in particular. A couple weeks back I did the chicken gnocchi soup, and I talked about the French Trinity, which is onions, celery, and carrots. We're actually, for this, I'm using what you'd call the Cajun Trinity, which is the onions, the carrots, and the bell pepper. So that's what a Cajun Trinity is. So we're just going to throw these in. I've put some olive oil down. Next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and salt these pretty liberally. Again, like I've said in the past, the salt is what causes the vegetable to break down. So we're going to go ahead and get that started. I realize I did not grab myself a spoon here, so I'm getting a wooden spoon because this is a non-stick skillet. So we're just going to kind of start this cooking. Once these get about halfway cooked, I'm going to add the mushrooms and the zucchini to it. And then we might have to put a little bit more salt on it. And then once that all kind of starts to get fully cooked, then we'll add all the tomato pastes. While we're doing that, I have here some fresh garlic that I'll be putting in here in just a second. But I wanted to go ahead and do the fresh herbs first. So again, like I said, we got here, this is oregano, so I'm going to pull all of the leaves off of my stem. And I've actually, you could use a good butcher knife to dice your herbs, but I'm going to try something different tonight. I've seen a lot of more professional chefs use scissors, so I'm going to use scissors and see how that works.
I like scissors.
Melissa says she likes using scissors, especially for her basil. She just made some caprese salad, which is tomatoes, mozzarella, and basil with salt and pepper and olive oil. And she likes using that. But we'll see how it goes. Just kind of picking all the leaves off. You can use the stems of the herbs, but I don't like them once they start to get a little woody. And so it still has the flavor in it, but it's just not as fun to eat. So I'm just picking off my leaves here of my oregano, my parsley, and my basil. The onions, the onions, the green pepper, and the carrots are cooking over there, and we will continue to move forward with this. Got most of my herbs here done. Just kind of finishing this up, and then I'll stir a little bit more, and then we'll go back to chopping these up. So I want to get all these off. Like I said, you can use the stems. The stems still have the flavor, but they're not as good to eat. And since I'm not using like an herb mincer, if you were to dry this and then like send it through, I know some people use like a coffee grinder for their herbs, and that works really well once they're dried. But when they're fresh like this, realistically, you either just have to chop them or mince them. Then you pretty much need to use either a shears or a knife or something along those lines. So for those of you who are just hopping on, tonight we are making shrimp Primavera, and I'm making the sauce from scratch. I ran into Leela the other day at Walmart, and I asked her, she said she watches a lot of the episodes, and so I asked her what she wanted to see, and she says, I want to see you make pasta sauce from scratch. So we're making pasta sauce from scratch. I've got here the onions, the carrots, and the bell pepper, and that's starting to kind of get done. Hope you can see that in here. Turn this down just a little bit more. So those are cooking. I'm going to add to it our mushrooms. Okay. Have fun. Kids are going to Walmart. And then we're going to add to it the zucchini. And like I said, now I'm going to add a little bit more salt, because that salt helps to break those down. And then now I'm going to add my pepper. So I'm going to add what looks like a lot more pepper, but compared to since I added salt in 2 phases, we're going to add a lot more pepper this time. So there's that. Salt and pepper are in. Water is boiling, or getting ready to boil for our pasta. Put my dishes away over here. Recycle my goods. So again, we're going to stir these up, get all those vegetables cooking. You can see this is a heavy vegetable dish. Technically it is a pasta dish, of course, and it's red sauce, but this is a very healthy red sauce. You're getting a lot of servings of vegetables with this. Looking at it, actually, to be honest with you, I probably like a little bit more mushrooms, but this is what we have that was sliced. We've got some button mushrooms in there. We have other uses, other plans for, so let these vegetables cook. Now we're going to do my experiment. We're just kind of going to come in here and we're going to snip. And snip them until you get down to like a minced herb section. We actually received an herb mincer for our wedding 21 years ago, but Melissa never used it for herbs. It was the perfect width for her and her noodles, so we've used it as a noodle cutter ever since, and she's actually been disappointed that she hasn't been able to find one about the same width. A lot of them are more like a fettuccine noodle, a thicker fettuccine noodle, and she would like something a little thinner. So all those veggies are they're starting to cook down here. So here in just a second, once I finish with my herbs, I'm actually going to then add in the fresh garlic. So again, very healthy here, almost all fresh ingredients. The only thing that's not fresh, like I said, is the tomatoes, because they're just not in season right now. And the crushed red pepper and the thyme. I've never made my own crushed red pepper. And you can see how this is working. I'm just kind of just cutting it up. And I mean, you can do this really fine if you want. You could use an herb mincer. You could just use a knife and kind of, chop it up really. But the thing of it is when you're using fresh herbs, it's the oils and things like that give a lot of the flavor. And so, you don't have to have it super fine. Dried herbs are a little more potent, so you don't have to use as much of them, or at least on most herbs. There are some herbs that are a little more potent when they're fresh. But so there's that. Got my vegetables going here, so it's time to add that garlic. And I've already peeled my garlic. I've already peeled my garlic, and I've diced it into kind of somewhat small chunks. I've used this before. This is one of the few unitaskers we have in our kitchen. This is a garlic press. I just like how it minces the garlic, so I'm going to stick a couple in here. Oh no, not that many. Whew. That's a lot of stick through. And you just kind of squeeze it through. It comes with this nice little brush thing you can use to scrape off the garlic. So put that, there's our first round. Open it up. Put a couple more in here. And I dropped one down in there. Definitely don't want to have a big chunk of garlic like that whenever I get my sauce. Squeeze that through. Scrape it off. Just keep this going. I don't know if anybody's got any questions yet or any comments, but I see a lot of you there. Looks like Debbie and Errol, Ram, Holly. Oh my, a lot of people in here. Ash. Try and wave hi to everybody.
We'll have plenty for dinner.
We'll have plenty for dinner if you're around and you want some. So just making shrimp Primavera tonight. And Dawn, I see you've got a comment there, and that's Pampered Chef. This is a Pampered Chef. Yes, this tool here came from Pampered Chef. Melissa bought a second one before she stopped selling stuff because we knew we would eventually wear out the one we had, and we did. We wore it out about a year ago now.
Yeah,
so it lasted us a good 10-12 years before we wore it out, but we carted it around with us because we just thought, well, we really like this, we're going to use it. So the other thing I like about this is it's got these little tines in it, and so it goes right in. It's made to go right in there, and you push that through and it helps it come out of the other side. So really nice tool. Put this over here. Water is hot. All right, so fresh garlic is in, our veggies are in. We've started mincing our herbs. They're almost ready. Melissa just finished detailing our shrimp. This is, there are two kinds of shrimp you can buy around here. We really don't have real fresh shrimp, and even fresh shrimp are partially cooked because they just don't transport very well. So if your shrimp already have a little bit of a pink tinge to them, that means they're essentially completely cooked. They're really good for shrimp cocktail. They're really good for any kind of cold dish because you can go ahead and eat those. Because they are what's called cooked shrimp and not raw shrimp are going to have a little bit of a gray color to them. Raw shrimp you need to cook for about 5 to 7 minutes. Cooked shrimp like this, all you're really doing is heating them up. They're not going to take on a whole lot of the flavor in the sauce. And so we're going to throw those in right at the end. I got some fresh grated Parmesan for the top. My vegetables are starting to brown here. So I'm going to kind of mince my herbs a little bit more, and we're going to get that going. And we're going to go ahead and just toss those in. Get all those fresh herbs. This is, like I said, we got basil, oregano, and parsley from our garden. Melissa's planted an herb garden out here. We're doing that container garden thing. I wish that our thyme was at the stage where we could use it, but it's... I wish I had time. Ha ha ha, yeah. So we're just going to use a little bit of this. We don't want to use as much because this is dried thyme. And yes, I'm not measuring that. So
dried thyme is more potent than fresh.
And dried thyme is more potent. So in fact, I smell the thyme more than I smell anything else now that it's hit the heat. So don't want to lose a pepper. So my vegetables, my herbs are in here. They're all cooking. And once you throw the herbs in, realistically, now's the time where we're going to add our tomato products. So Again, unfortunately, we're not quite to tomato season yet. And yes, you could buy the tomatoes from the grocery store, and most of those are hydroponic, so they just don't have as much flavor to them. And so I'm using canned. So I've got a can of diced tomatoes, undrained, a can of stewed tomatoes, undrained. This is a can of basil, garlic, and oregano tomatoes, undrained. And then two small cans of tomato sauce. We get a lot of our canned goods, pretty much all of our canned goods we get from Aldi. They have really good quality. We like the flavor of them. And so all these are Aldi brand tomato products. So I'm going to stir this up, get this going. I'm going to have to turn up my pasta water over here because it's just kind of heating up really slow. So here's our Primavera sauce. Again, it's got red onion. I'm using red onion tonight. We got green pepper. We got carrots. We got mushrooms. We got zucchini. We got all those tomatoes in it. Some fresh herbs. See it? Really pretty. Really colorful. And I'm going to try and rinse these cans out and get a little bit more of the tomatoes goodness out of them. So. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to put those in the comments. I'll do my best to try and answer your questions. So, again, we're making just a shrimp primavera. Now, right before I put in the shrimp, I'm going to add my crushed red pepper. Now, I like the heat that this adds to the sauce. Some of our kids are not quite as spice tolerant as I am. In fact, pretty much none of the kids are as spice tolerant as I am. So I won't add a whole lot of this, and I won't add it. You could add it if you like the heat flavor in yours. You can put it in like right now, right after you add the tomatoes, so that that heat will kind of permeate the sauce. I'm going to add it towards the very end so that it just kind of flavors the sauce. So I'm going to go ahead and take my lid now, and we're going to let this cook. It's been on medium heat this whole time. I'm going to turn it up to about medium high. I don't want to turn it on high heat because this burner in particular, it just kind of goes nuts once you get past medium high. But we got our sauce going here. We just kind of want all of our flavors to meld. Our water is here. We got our shrimp standing by. We got some Parmesan for the top. And yeah, so this is a homemade spaghetti sauce, or this is a Primavera sauce actually. If you didn't use like the mushrooms and the zucchini and the carrots, even probably the bell pepper, it would be just a regular pasta sauce. And you could, a lot of times with pasta sauces, not ones heavy in vegetables like this, but a regular pasta sauce, you could push it to your back burner and put a lid on it and set it on low and just allow it to simmer all day long and come and stir it periodically, and it'd get that nice thicker texture to it. We don't need as thick of a texture. If I was going to thicken this up, if we get to that point and it's looking like it's just not thick enough, I could add some tomato paste to it. I might add a small can of tomato paste to it. But I want this, you need a little bit of liquid to it because it's going to coat your pasta. If you get it too thick, then it just kind of sets on top of your pasta. And for pasta tonight, we're using penne. Penne is a pretty standard noodle you can get. It's a dry noodle. It looks like this. It's kind of about 2 inches long, 1.5 inches, 2 inches long, and it's a round noodle. So it's been extruded. It's a formed pasta, and then they cut it off as it comes out. And dried pasta takes a little longer to cook. Today I purchased a pasta roller, so we're going to do some experiments with with pasta in the days ahead. I want to see if I can figure it out. We've tried purchasing pasta machines in the past and just didn't have great luck. We keep holding out that maybe one of these days not Pampered Chef. What is our mixer? Our mixer is a KitchenAid. There we go. We keep holding out that one of these days KitchenAid will have a sale on their mixers, and we could go ahead and get the pasta attachment for our KitchenAid. But we were looking today, and that pasta attachment is $200. One for the sheeter and one for the cutter. So that's a rather expensive piece of kitchen utensil. So that's not something we'll be purchasing anytime soon. We'll probably actually buy a new KitchenAid before we'll get the KitchenAid attachment. So we are making, for those of you who have just hopped on recently, this is shrimp Primavera. Very heavy, veggie laden red sauce pasta. Got the shrimp ready, and so this is starting to boil here, and I'm hoping that my water will start to boil. The penne, usually we use the box instructions. This says for al dente you want to cook it about 10 minutes, so 10 to 12 minutes. Melissa likes her pasta a little softer, so we'll probably go the full 12 minutes on that. And actually what I'll do is I'm going to cook this 10 minutes in here. We'll drain it, and the last 2 minutes I'm going to cook it in with the sauce so that it takes on a little bit more of that flavor. And then once we put the pasta in, we'll add our shrimp in. We'll put our crushed red pepper in. Once it's done cooking, those last 2 minutes, we will plate it, and I'll show you guys our shrimp Primavera. So this, to be honest with you, this is one of my favorite pasta dishes to make. I love all the vegetables in it. It's a very healthy dish. It's got a little bit of olive oil in it.
Very aromatic.
Very aromatic. As I open this up, man, I wish you guys could smell that. It's just a really great, rich smell. It's not something that I grew up eating. To be honest with you, the first time I had it, I actually had it when I was working for Olive Garden in Evansville, back when Melissa and I were in college. Right before Blake was born, we lived in Evansville, and I worked for Olive Garden, and I got exposed to a lot of Italian cooking there. Of course, you can question whether or not Olive Garden is true Italian cooking or not, but so I had it there, but it wasn't my favorite thing. I didn't make it very often, but it's something over the last couple of years as our kids have gotten older and they're willing to eat more vegetables. I make this a little bit more often. You could make this and put chicken in it. The chicken, it would just be more of just added protein. I don't know that chicken holds up to the flavor of this sauce as well. You could probably do this with Italian sausage. It'd be okay, but I think Italian sausage may actually overpower this sauce. But it would be just fine without the shrimp. You could just do straight pasta Primavera. And so it's either the shrimp, maybe the chicken, or just without it. But tonight we're doing shrimp. So this has begun to boil. My water back here has begun to boil. So I'm going to go ahead and stick my pasta in. Like I said, we're going to do the first 10 minutes here in the water. We'll drain it, and then we'll do the last 2 minutes in with the pasta sauce. So that way it takes on a little bit more of that flavor of the sauce. The last couple episodes I've made have just been kind of random food dishes that we were making at the time. And so it would be great to hear from some of you guys what you would like to see. Dawn, I know early on you asked me about doing a chicken cordon bleu. We tried one. It was my take on it. It went okay. It didn't go great. We did a baked one, and it was more like a layered cordon bleu than a stuffed cordon bleu. But it had good flavor. It just didn't look like those nice, big, thick cordon bleus that are stuffed with the ham and the Swiss cheese. I also know that I've got an episode coming up once the quarantine part of this lifts, maybe here after the 1st of July. We'll do a couple of more episodes. Josh Harris has asked about doing one, and then we're going to go out to Jim Alexander's new house, and I'm going to use his new convection oven for a cookie episode. So those are the two that I know are coming up. Melissa and I haven't really talked about what is on the menu for us this week. I'll probably do at least one video this week. I've been trying to do some, I added one to my YouTube channel. There's been a couple of them that I've had to do that just require, well, they require a lot of extra time. So there's a bonus episode on my YouTube channel where I make homemade rub, and I smoked brisket and a pork loin for Grant's graduation party. Well, the family graduation party. We plan on having an open house for him here in July, and so we'll probably have, invite the church and the community over, and all of you are welcome to come and congratulate Grant. We'll probably do yard games, and he was talking about doing burgers and dogs for that. So this right here is now boiling good. Here at about 5 minutes till, I'm going to turn this down to a simmer, and I will add in the crushed red pepper. And our pasta here is cooking. We've got about 7.5 minutes before it finishes that first stage. And so I just want to make sure that we get that pasta good. One of the things I learned on long noodles like spaghetti, linguine, fettuccine, you can actually do those in a skillet, and you just cover them with just enough water, about 1/4 inch above, and they will cook down. For shaped pastas, or if you're doing long pastas in a pot like this, you need a good gallon of water. They just need room to move around and absorb that water. Part of what happens with dry pastas is they're absorbing a lot of the water you put in here. So if you just barely cover them with water, then they're actually not going to cook all the way. They'll still have some crunchy spots, and also they'll stick together a lot more. If you put it in a big pot, put some salt, some oil or butter in it, and let it go like that, they'll have plenty of room to bounce around and cook completely. In fact, we'll be pouring off about half of this water that I use, so that it'll drain good and it'll be good. And then, like I said, we're going to finish cooking it in here. So sauce is basically done. Here, like I said, we're doing shrimp primavera. Dawn's on, and I'm not for sure who else is on and watching, but I'm glad you guys have stuck around here to the end. Like I said, this is one of my favorite Italian dishes to make. It takes a little bit longer than like just a standard spaghetti sauce. In many ways, though, this uses the same thing. If you took out the carrots and the zucchini, and even you could leave the mushrooms in or not, but then this with hamburger or sausage would make a really good sauce for like lasagna. Never thought about doing that. That's a little more intensive dish as well. That would be one that would probably have to be a bonus episode, because it would take so many layers, and you'd have to let that baked pasta cook. Wouldn't be as fun or entertaining to watch that with nothing going on for that half hour, 45 minutes while it's baking. So we got about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to take this lid off. I'm going to turn this down to low to simmer, and we're going to add our crushed red pepper now. So I'm going to come over here. Well, I just eyeballed all the rest of this stuff. The thing about baking is a science. You've got to have some exact measurements, or within a margin of error. But cooking is more of an art. It's more of what your flavor palette likes. I'll go a little bit more. Madison will probably say that this is a little on the spicy side, but that's okay. She's the one who always notices whenever I put too much heat to something. So again, we've turned this down to low. We want to take the lid off, because now at this stage we're letting all this steam come out. We're letting it thicken. We're letting it cook down, and that's important as you want your sauce to thicken up. I'm also stirring my pasta to make sure it doesn't stick to the ground, or stick to the bottom of the pot. And I'm just kind of keeping the lid on it so that it cooks a little, keeps that heat in and it cooks a little bit more. And so we're at the final stages here of this shrimp primavera episode. My sauce is cooking down, our pasta is cooking, our shrimp is standing by, and then we're going to be eating. So I'm gonna serve in this nice little, I don't know, we call them plate bowls. I'm not for sure what else to call it. So it's just kind of a squat bowl or a tall plate. It's kind of the perfect pasta dish, actually. So I'm just gonna, don't want that to boil over, as it was starting to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the lid off of this for the remainder of that cooking. I'm gonna keep stirring my sauce because you don't want it to burn. It's nice, hearty, chunky sauce here. Melissa's stirring the pasta again. We got about 3 minutes left on the pasta for the first stage, and then we'll drain that. We'll put the pasta in here for the last 2 minutes. We'll also turn it back up to high. And I'm gonna kind of, the thing about stewed tomatoes is they really just slice the tomatoes, they don't dice them. So I'm gonna kind of chop up some of these bigger chunks of tomatoes. I don't mind them, but they kind of get hard to put a bite on them. You know, they're more than a mouthful. So we got 2 minutes left on our pasta, and we are just about done. We got about 5 minutes left, and then we will be eating here in just a little bit. It's a little later than what I like to eat, but it's about when we normally eat anymore. And we're just too busy to eat earlier than that. I started dicing my vegetables probably about an hour ago. As we got home from Evansville and we had to put away all of the groceries and stuff. And the thing of it is I could do a lot more of the prep on camera, and if you guys want to, I would be willing to do that. But I want to show you something that's a little more, I guess you'd say, action-packed. Melissa and I were actually discussing the other day about maybe even doing an episode where we just like go to the grocery store and evaluate produce. Show you how to evaluate, or at least how we evaluate produce. So we got about 20 seconds left, and I'm going to pull the pasta a little early. It looks like it's cooking faster than what I thought it was going to. So we're going to pull it after 9 minutes instead of 10 minutes. And then we'll do that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out our hot pads, because that's probably going to be a very hot pan. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. Melissa's going to take the pasta. So while she's taking the pasta, I'm going to go ahead and put my shrimp in. So we got here, that's about 2 pounds of shrimp, I think it was. Stir that in. Get those shrimpies all in the sauce. Let them start to take in. They're not going to take on a lot of the flavor because, like I said, these were cooked shrimp, but they will take in some of it. And now we've got the pasta ready. We will go ahead and pour the pasta in here. Which way do you want to do it? Go that way? All right. Pasta is in. Stir this up. Forgot to turn off my timer. And so we're going to set now a 2-minute timer. And we're going to cook this the last 2 minutes. The pasta will start to take up some of that sauciness of the liquid of our sauce as it's cooking the rest of the way. I just kind of want to stir all this pasta in, make sure it gets all coated with the juices, the liquids. And this has made a very big batch. I'm glad that Blake is home and Anika is with him and Madison's here. Grant is working tonight. He says he probably won't be hungry, but I'll save him some. And maybe if Leah and Braxton, when they come home on Sunday, they may get lucky, there might be some left. So we're going to let that cook. put the lid back on it so that it's going to go. So like I said, I'm going to finish off with some fresh grated Parmesan cheese that we also got from Aldi's. So switch over to my pasta spoon. I'm done. Yeah, we've also got, Melissa has a little bit of more fresh basil that she kind of cut into ribbons. So we'll get a little fancy on the top here. So we're just kind of letting this cook. Gonna turn up to about medium low. We're just kind of finishing our pasta. We're letting that shrimp cook, at least heat up anyway. It's not really cooking because it was completely cooked. We could have ate it straight from the package, which we like to do with cocktail sauce. But so just as we're going into the last 30 seconds, this is shrimp primavera. It's got carrots, I used red onion, green pepper, mushrooms, and zucchini. We used fresh basil, oregano, and parsley from our raised beds, our garden out there. You had to use a little bit of dried thyme because our thyme's not ready. Crushed red pepper, salt, pepper, olive oil, fresh garlic. Then we used canned tomatoes, and now this is ready. So I'm going to take this out, scoop out some pasta primavera here, get a couple of good scoops. Maybe I'll make this my bowl. This is nice and pretty. Kids aren't here. Shrimp primavera. We're going to top it with some fresh Parmesan cheese. And some fresh basil ribbons. So, shrimp primavera. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Like I said, this is one of my favorite dishes. As pasta dishes go, it's a very healthy dish. Lots of vegetables, mostly pretty much all fresh ingredients. And I will see you guys next time for my Reverent cooking. Thanks for watching.